Hi everybody. Hello, 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 hello. Hello. Welcome everybody. We got 10 minutes, okay? 10 minutes. But yeah, um I have a thought, like my thought process right now. I just wanted to document it and record it. Hey Veronica, thank you for liking the live. I just wanted to record my thought process right now because I think that it'll be helpful to someone else out there who may be going through the same thing or have the same thoughts, you know. But I'm realizing the significance and importance, hey Nisha, of relationships. Um, I'm noticing relationship dynamics. Um, I've never, I've never 100% had a healthy perspective or thought process about how healthy relationships look. And because, I've had my own trial and tribulation when it came to relationships, now that I'm a little older and, am implementing boundaries in my life now, I'm noticing how unhealthy relationships can really be. And what would it take to get or be in a healthy relationship. This is not only in a romantic setting, this is also platonically. People come in and out of your life all the time. You have connections with people right now in your life, whether it be romantically or platonically, and I've realized by looking at other people's relationships in my life, I've noticed that in a lot of these relationships, whatever status it is, there are or and is a lot of people who are in relationships where one party is self-expressive. They're telling the other party how they feel, or what they think or how they think about something or how they're perceiving something, and the other person is not sharing how they think or how they feel or whatever, or vice versa, depending on the situation and depending on the people. I see a lot of that in our community. I see a lot of deflecting from someone else's thought process or perspective or emotions. I see a lot of one-sidedness, and I feel like because that is like such a significance. I'm talking about in our community. I'm not talking about like, I'm just saying in our community, I see a lot of that. Like, what you wanted again? Gummies. I see, because I see a lot of that, I feel like it needs to be highlighted in our community. I've gotten, my divine upgrade, whatever you want to call it, to talk about these things, because these things are not talked about. Everybody's talking about healing, everybody's talking about how to heal, but it's limited to someone's perspective. And I think that that's just unfair, to humanity, period. I feel like our community would rather argue, about each other's perspective and how each other views the situation, rather than just allowing, people to be who they are and accepting them for who they are. And accepting them doesn't mean that you have to stick around. Accepting them doesn't mean that, you have to tolerate their bullshit or tolerate something from them that you can't handle. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is there's not enough of letting people be who they are and accepting them for who they are. Like, majority of the relationships that I've had in my life, it was always one-sided. It was always like once I start expressing my point of view or my perspective or how I feel about something, it's deflected. You know, oh, you too sensitive, or oh, you too, you're reading too deep into it, or no, you know, they'll say stuff like, no, that's not what's going on, this is what's going on, you know, without any proof, you know, that that is the case, you know. So it was always deflection for me. This is just the natural pattern of my life, you know what I mean. And again, I'm not talking about anybody specific. I'm just noticing a pattern of unhealthy relationships versus healthy relationships, and I feel like this is something good for me to talk about because of the fact that, bro, like, you guys have watched me in toxic relationships, and my community is not limited to skin color. My community is humanity. There's a lot of shit going on in humanity that we can talk about and bring to awareness. It's just the simple fact that today, healthy relationships versus unhealthy relationships is on my heart, and it's on my mind because I've dealt with this since I was a little girl. And literally, I've attracted relationships to me because I didn't have a healthy relationship with my mom. I didn't have 100% healthy relationship with my dad. I didn't have, you know, a healthy relationship with my siblings or anything like that. And it wasn't because I didn't want that. It was just because of the environment, the circumstances, you know, and many other things that played a big role in my life that hindered me from having a healthy relationship. Shit, not even my own parents had healthy relationships with their parents or whoever they came into contact with. So it really is a trickle down effect from generation to generation, and we can't negate that that is the case, and we definitely can't solely tie it down to one person, because all of the decisions that my parents made, it affects me. And this is why I'm bringing it to the light, because there's a light inside of me, there's a want inside of me that wants to evolve myself to be a more healthier person when I am in relationships, whether it be whatever status that's put on it, so that my decision makings from these relationships that I'm in don't affect my children, which would in turn ultimately groom them and grow them up to be whatever it is that I'm, you know, living out to be. You know what I'm saying? So it starts with me, and I just feel like there are people out there who could learn from what I'm about to say. You see what I'm saying? So with that being the case, you know, starting off with a healthy relationship, I've gotten from therapists, I've gotten from older people that are older than me in my life, you know, and people that's close to me. I've gotten a lot of communication is key. I do believe communication is key. I feel like in a healthy relationship, whatever the status is, I feel like authenticity within that communication goes a long way. I feel like if one person is completely being authentic and then the other person pulls away, I feel like that leaves room for confusion. I feel like that leaves room for misunderstandings. I feel like that leaves room for an ultimate argument, or, you know, something that could have been within the relationship dynamic that would set two people apart. Now, I've noticed that when I've come to peaks like this in my relationships, especially, you know, me trying to work it out in my past relationships, putting communication forth and putting my vulnerability on the table, is that when you're faced with your own vulnerability and sharing that with another person, most of us have been betrayed so much and have been like, I'm gonna just use the word betrayed because that's the best word that I can use. Most of us have been betrayed and traumatized so much to the point where we've always, or we've now built a wall of protection around us. So it doesn't matter who we come into contact with or who we engage with, whatever the case may be, we're always have this protective shell up where we feel like we naturally have to protect our vulnerabilities so that someone doesn't hurt us, or, we don't put ourselves in a line of fire. And I've done that, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've done that with some of the relationships that are in my life. But what I've learned, and am still learning over time being in these relationships, is that me hiding my vulnerability for the sake of, rejection, not being rejected or betrayal or traumatized or whatever the case may be, or for the fact that a matter of never trusting anyone, it still doesn't put me in a healthy position with myself. So I could be in a relationship with someone and hide my vulnerability, or, hide an aspect of myself, to the point where it'll actually put me in a place where I'm not being truthful to who I am, which is ultimately saying that I don't know who I am. Underneath God's eyes, in God's eyes, that means I don't know who I am. God created us to be authentically who we are. It doesn't really matter what the other party is doing, because their vulnerability, they're going to have to face them being open and honest with you about whatever it is that's going on, or however they feel, or whatever they have a misunderstanding with, or whatever route of communication that they need to take in order to consistently build a mental rapport with you, an emotional rapport with you. That literally has nothing to do with you. And as unfortunate as that is, because we love people and we want to be there for them, we'll stay in situations too long trying to pull out somebody's vulnerability, when the fact of the matter is, you have to allow people to be who they are. And if that person is not reciprocating the same amount of emotional vulnerability that you feel like you're putting forth into the relationship, whatever status it is, you have every right to continue to put your boundaries down and continue to communicate that. Now, I've noticed in our community that a lot of these situations end up in arguments because one person don't understand the other person, when the misunderstanding is neither here nor there. The misunderstanding comes from the fact of lack of vulnerability. And I feel like if people would just be accountable for their own shit, then it'll create less of a gray area for an understanding to happen sooner rather than later. And hypothetically speaking, if you get married, or if you get into a relationship like with your mom, you have a relationship with your mom or with your dad or somebody that's really close to you, you're going to have to continue to make sure that your vulnerability is solid. Because if at any point that vulnerability is not present, or is not like readily accessible for you to tap into to share with another party, then of course they're not going to understand you, because people are not mind readers. We're not mind readers. Even if you do hypothetically get married and get into a relationship, that person is not gonna 100% know what's on your mind. They may pick up on certain things. I'm not saying that they won't. They may pick up on certain things. They may know what you like and what you don't like. But ultimately, that person does not have your mind. And I think that's what it boils down to. Like, especially because I'm a mom, I've noticed this with children as well. When women give birth to children, because we're raising them, we automatically think like, oh, I know that person. I know my child. I know what she would and wouldn't do. I know how she would and wouldn't think about this or that, whatever the case may be. But you still have to allow, even as a mother, I still have to allow my children, outside of what I think I know about them, to be who they are and accept them for who they are, so that I can completely understand them. If I literally put a limit on who my child is based off of what I think I know, or just my perception alone, then that leaves no room for my child to grow. That leaves no room for my child to be a human and express themselves, their personality, outside of my own way of thinking, which is unfair, because the world does not just revolve around how you think. We literally are all in this together. So some form of fashion, the way you think is affecting me, the way I think is affecting you. So I have to have some area of grace for you within my being to allow you to be that. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, having this way of being is not to say that you have to take on somebody else's bullshit and allow people to, walk over your boundaries or whatever the case may be. Like, no, still have your boundaries, still have, the things that you will and will not tolerate. Know those things, but allow people to be who they are. I wish that people would stop, especially with me. Like, many relationships that I've come across, people will get in relationships with me, whether it be friends, like whatever. They'll get into a relationship with me and think that they know me. My friends, they are in relationships with me and think that they know me. And then when we're out and about, or if I have an opposing view about whatever it is that they feel, whatever, it quickly turns into an argument because they thought that I was going to think about it or feel a way about it how they would. And that's literally not, that's not reality. Reality is that I perceive life the way that I perceive it, and you perceive life the way that you perceive it. Now, let's hypothetically say that you've come into contact with somebody who has always experienced, because of their environment, how they grew up, or however they were raised, constantly have been through relationships where their emotional authenticity was repressed, or they constantly are feeling misunderstood because nobody is taking the time or have the grace to understand, like to genuinely be there, and understand them. And again, no one's obligated, you feel me? No one's obligated to, stick around and do this and do that. I genuinely feel like the people who stick around to get to know that person outside of their rejection or misunderstanding or whatever it is that they've been through, I think that those are the people that's for them. But unfortunately, yes, we have come across, and many of us who have experienced that type of, experience, that level of rejection, has constantly like sat with themselves and asked themselves, like, would there ever be anybody who genuinely want to get to know me outside of the perception that they may have of me? Like, there are many people out there who think like this, who feel like this, and they feel alone because they're constantly being told, like, in so many words, oh, what you're feeling is not valid, how you're thinking is not valid, how you perceive life is not valid, when these people are mind. These little people literally have a mind. You understand what I'm saying? And I don't know, I think it's just imperative, like, just understanding what a healthy relationship looks like versus a toxic or unhealthy relationship. Unhealthy relationships, a person is not going to listen to you. That's just what it's going to be. You can scream to the top of your lungs how you feel and why you feel that way about it and how you perceive the situation, but they're not going to hear you because they're limited by their own perception and perspective of how they view you and how they think about, or whatever, how they view you. They're limited to only that. And that's literally unfair to you. If you're in a relationship like that in any form of fashion, that's unhealthy for you, because that's gonna leave you in a state of feeling like, well, damn, this person don't listen to me, this person don't feel me, this person don't hear me, which ultimately leads to people pleasing. You're gonna start pleasing that person based off of how they feel, and then you'll start repressing how you feel. You'll literally start neglecting how you feel for the sake of them being right, or for the sake of them having some type of hierarchy in your life, when that's not necessary. And I get it, like, a lot of us be like, well, I love this person, I want this person to, like, there are many children out there, literal children out there, with relationships with their moms, with their dads, who feel unheard. I pray to God that I never make my children feel like this, because I was and am a product of that. When a parent puts a child in a position that to the point where that child feels unheard, that child is now gonna live in the world, go out into the world, and literally attract people to them that share those same characteristics of how their parent treated them, if not worse. And I think that that's a turnaround point for me, because I've been through that, and I don't ever want my children to attract relationships from that space. I feel like my children's voice should be heard, even if they may not be 100% right about how they're perceiving it. I always have the opportunity and the assignment and the responsibility to uplift their mindset into a more positive way of thinking, if it is so negative or whatever the case may be. Like, I have that power as their parent. So that's neither here nor there. The point is, and what matters, is the fact that their voice is heard, and that they feel heard, and that they feel seen. Because children will go out into the world, and when they feel rejected by their parents, they will go out into the world so oblivious and accept breadcrumbs and accept literal nothing, when they deserve better, when they deserve to be heard, when they deserve to have a safe space to express themselves without someone deflecting upon their emotions, without someone being like, oh, well, that's just how you feel. Like, that's so rude to do that to a person. Like, especially when you say that you love them, especially when you have an influence and an impact on their life. Like, in a healthy relationship, I know this for a fact. In a healthy relationship, if I'm vulnerable about how I feel and how I perceive whatever it is, it does not always have to be true. It doesn't necessarily always have to be 100% true. But for me to be able to express myself authentically, without no filter, and that person sits there and want to understand and actively engages in a mental rapport and an emotional rapport, then that means that they care. Now, some of these situations, I'm not gonna say most, but some of these situations, you don't have to compromise. You just have to be willing to understand a person's point of view, because like I said, the world don't just revolve around how you think about a situation. You may say one thing and mean one thing, and a person takes that and interprets it a whole nother way. But that doesn't mean that they're wrong because of how they perceive the situation. It doesn't. It just means that they have a different way of thinking about it. And if you love somebody, you would go to the extent of compromising how you're handling that person or how you're dealing with that person to have a more healthier dynamic if you love that person. There are people out there that I know that have relationships with me right now that don't give a fuck about what I'm saying. They don't give a fuck about how I feel, and they don't give a fuck about what I'm doing. And literally. And these are people that say they love me. These are people that say that they have my back. These are people that, you know what I mean? And they're only limited to their perspective. And when I start getting to talk about and finally opening up, because I've suppressed for so long and people pleased with them for so long, when I finally start opening up about my emotions and how I feel, it's quickly turned against me like, oh, you just want to say how you feel. Why don't I have that right? Why don't I have the right to say how I feel, to express how I perceive the situation, and stand on that? What exempts me from being able to do that, but gives you all the right to say and do whatever it is that you want without me saying anything or feeling any? That sounds like an emotionally abusive relationship. That's literally what that sounds like. And these people want me to be quiet. They want me to not say anything. They want me to allow them to talk to me and push the narrative and push their projection of how they view me or the situation onto me. And I'm just not going for that no more. Like, this is why I'm talking about it, because I feel like in life, all of us shouldn't do that. I don't believe none of us should just sit there. If we feel some type of way about something, I don't believe that we should just sit there and allow ourselves to feel that way without saying something. I feel like we deserve to say something. And I feel like if somebody says that they care about you, and whatever the case may be, they're gonna allow you to express yourself. They're not gonna dim your light. They're not gonna squash you. They're not gonna deflect. They're gonna allow you to be who you are. And most of the time when they say that they love you, they're going to want to understand why. They're going to have questionnaire behind why you feel that, because they're going to want to understand why you perceive life the way that you do. That is what's called genuinely being interested in someone. When you question someone's way of thinking, or why they would even think that way, that's being interested in a person. Not allowing somebody to express who they are and then being like, oh, you're too sensitive, or you too, and chalking it up to be something that's like way, like, how do you know that? How can you assume that? You don't know. Some people have been in my life where they've only seen just a little bit of what I've been through. You know what I'm saying? And they feel like they just know me. You know, they just feel like, oh, because I went through that, this is a narrative that's on my life currently. Like, people feel like because they watch me, and I know this because it is what it is. Like, this shit is shown. It's literally out, and like it can't be hidden. These people feel like just because this is just one way. This is not just a total way. And I could be wrong. So Lord, please, whatever, do what you got to do. However, because people have watched me go through that, they feel like now that I'm like rekindling my relationships, and they just, if I feel some type of way about something, I'm triggered. I'm just triggered. I'm just sensitive because of what I've been through. And very much well, I can be sensitive and triggered because of what I've been through, but that just means that I am now standing on my boundaries. As before, I wasn't standing on my boundaries. I was letting niggas walk in and out of my life as they please, and doing whatever the fuck it is that they want, and say whatever it is that they want without speaking up for myself. Well, I did speak up for myself, but my speaking up for myself ended in domestic violence. It ended up in physical abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse. So now in my life at 28 years old, I literally am standing on my boundaries, because I'm not going to allow a man to put his hands on me anymore. I'm not going to allow a man or any woman, mother, sister, brother, daughter, cousin, I don't give a fuck who it is, because it's not just romantically. It's all of the dynamic of relationships for me. I'm not speaking of just about one person. I'm talking about generally speaking on relationship dynamics. I'm not going to allow anybody to come up to me and put their motherfucking hands on me. I don't give a fuck what we got going on. I don't give a fuck what we talking about, because I know that I'm emotionally mature enough to have a conversation with somebody about my vulnerability and not get irate. But once you start trying to tell me how I feel, once you start trying to tell me how you think I should feel, or the fact that you think I'm not really feeling like how I'm feeling, and I'm feeling a different way, that's when I'm going to get on your ass, and that's when I'm going to stand on my boundaries, because nobody will walk in my life and tell me how I feel. Nobody will walk in my life and tell me that I'm too sensitive. Nobody will walk in my life and tell me that I shouldn't necessarily feel some type of way about something, and I should have a different response. My response is what it is. It boils down to this. Either you fuck with me or you don't. You want to get to understand me, you want to get to know me, or you don't. And there's no gray area in between that. And I'm not talking about random people. I'm talking about people who want to be close to me, people who want to have a relationship with me, because I feel like whoever you are, when you are a loving person, when you genuinely are interested in someone, when you genuinely want to know someone, whatever the relationship status is, you're not going to push that person away by deflecting on how they feel, because that's literally the opposite of being interested. So an interested person is gonna take their time to ask you questions like, yo, like, I'm trying to understand from whatever thought, from whatever thought that they have, you're gonna be interested. Like, this is what it is. I wanna understand. You know what I mean? She can't see me. And that's just it. That's all. I'm at my brink in my life where I'm not gonna allow nobody to deflect. I don't give a fuck if I am wrong. I will figure that out once we lay our vulnerability on the table and we have an understanding. Outside of that, you're not about to come and tell me how to feel. You're not about to come and tell me how to perceive life. You're not about to do it. And if you can't handle it, then move around. And this is the craziest part about the situation when it comes to this is the craziest part about relationships when it comes to relationships, right? When I've experienced all my life, when I don't even give people the option. I honestly just leave. Because, hey, baby, how you doing?
Mommy, today is someone's birthday.
Happy birthday.
And it's our student, Sebastian, and he gave us this.
Awesome. Is it good? Mm-hmm. Do you have to potty? Go potty.
Where's Abby and Lou?
At the Major's taking a nap and Abby and Lou went to the store with Titi Moody.
What kind of store?
I think the store up there that she went to the other day. I've never had the opportunity to give people the option, you know, because people want to stay. People want to stay in my life. Like, people have a habit of wanting to stay in my life and expecting me to just tolerate whatever it is that they got coming. And that is not who I am. So I've always made the decision to leave. And these people get so mad at me and want to destroy my character and want to destroy me and want to, you know, and it's just like, it's just as simple as this. I left because you're not reciprocating the same energy that I'm giving you. If I'm calm, cool, and collected with you, trying to communicate, to comprehend why it is the way that you are, to accept you for who you are, why can't I get that back? I'm not just some fucking puppet. I'm not just a fucking toy. I'm not something that you just sit on the dresser and then take off the dresser when you're ready to play with it and then sit me back. That's not who I am. And I'm literally, like, I'm not accepting anyone's, like, bullshit anymore. Like, it is what it is. Like, if you're interested, you're interested. If you're not, you're not. And I don't give a fuck who you are. My sister, I don't give a fuck. My brother, I don't give a fuck. My mom, I don't give a fuck. My dad is no longer here, but if he was, I wouldn't give a fuck, because that means that I am not staying true to who I am. And I feel like that is important. I feel like that is important for everybody to stay true to who they are. And if that ever becomes a problem when you're engaging with someone, then that just means that they are not for you. And it is okay to continue to live your best life. It is okay to be at peace with the fact that, okay, I'm just not for that person. Don't get irate and erratic thinking that you're just gonna destroy some shit over here because you come fucking with me, you fucking with God. That's all I'm saying. What's up, baby? You do? But I'm listening. Oh, this is for Easter. Yes. And like I said, can I have this one?
Huh?
Can I have one?
Which one? Yeah. This for everybody.
You think so?
Yeah. You can have whatever you want. It got chocolate.
I want this one.
Yeah, you can have that one.
Because it got gum in it, and I don't want you to eat no gum. Can I have another one? You sure? If you don't want me to, it's fine. You don't want me to? Here. I want this one, though. And like I said... Huh? Well, it has gum in it, and I don't want you to eat the gum because you have it all over the floor in the house, and it be in everybody's hair, and I don't got time for that. Can I have it? Thank you. And I'm also talking about this because I know people are going to come across this gym.
And this
And hear what I'm saying. There are, okay, there are people out there in the world who constantly ask me, what should I do? How should I do this? No.
What's this one?
And yet I'm not talking about it, because when I talk about it, motherfuckers getting their feelings and think that I'm talking about them. What if the motherfucking shoe fits? Wear it. If it don't apply, why are you responding? And that is my problem with people. People always are too fucking personal about someone else's vulnerability. If I'm being vulnerable, you either accept the shit or you don't. Like, if the shoe fits, wear it. I'm literally at that point in my life, because for me personally, the way that I live my life, if somebody says something about me, and I know it to be true, then I'm gonna respond. But if it's not true, then the shit literally don't apply. Why the fuck am I even giving energy to the shit? And that comes with emotional maturity, and that is the reason why I'm talking about healthy relationships. Period. I could stay there all day having a conversation with somebody to get an understanding, but once they pull back from me, why should I stay around to try and pull out of you commitment to the situation on any level? Like, that's not my job. My job is to show up and be present, be authentic, be vulnerable, and let that be known. And if it's rejected, then literally, like, it's not my duty or my responsibility to keep somebody there. Like, if that's how you're gonna move, if that's what you're gonna do, then by all means, don't think that it's the revolving door, though. That's my point. I'm at a point in my life as a mother, like, don't think that it's a revolving door. Like, if you're gonna walk, continue to walk and not look back, because that's what I'm doing. Because the last time I checked, God told me that when people are for you, they're gonna be for you. They're not gonna be on some other, and I'm not saying that it's gonna just be like peaches and cream and everything's gonna be perfect. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is you should never be in a relationship where somebody is deflecting your vulnerability, telling you should feel like this, you should respond like this. No one should ever be in your relationship. That is a sign of emotional manipulation. When somebody is talking to you and telling you like, oh well, you should have never even looked at it like that. Like, who the fuck are you to tell me how I should view anything? My perception is my perception. God gives me my mind, not you, motherfucker, at the end of the day. And this is some real shit. This is the truth of the matter. This is the logistics of the situation. The logic is that God gave me my perception. God gave me my mind. And even if I did go through some shit, or even if I never been through some shit, however I perceive life is how I perceive it. Either you gonna stay around for a long time or you gonna stay around for a short time. And my shit ain't short term, so you need to move fucking around or I'm gonna move around for you. That's where I'm at in my life. And I feel like every single one of us should have that mindset, especially if you're raising children. I never want my little girls or my little boy to think that it's just okay to stay in unwanted situations. If somebody is not reciprocating what it is you're putting down, dip. It's just that simple, because the last thing you want to do is continue wasting your energy on a motherfucker that's wasting it anyway. You're not doing nothing with my energy. You're not utilizing, you're not even accepting me for who I am at this point. And it's just a fucked up world we live in like that. And because, like I said, I know that a lot of us have been through emotional betrayal, just betrayal period, trauma period, when it comes to relationships from our parents and our siblings and people that are close to us. So by the time we get to our actual relationships that we're actually supposed to be in, like friends that we're actually supposed to have, the husband or the wife that we're actually supposed to have, the shit gets tainted because of the fact of the betrayal and the trauma and the protection that we've built around ourselves because of whatever it is that we've been through. What's up, Ellie? All I'm saying is, express yourself. I'm also, hi baby. I'm also talking about this because I've lived a long little short life of unhealthy relationships. I'm just now getting to my healthy relationships, and I've seen it. Eliana, express yourself. Come on now. What's wrong? Hmm? Huh? But I already started eating it. I also feel like this because if I'm as young as I am, and I'm constantly building myself to be emotionally mature, and I'm working on myself every day to become a better communicator, a better everything, in the sense of being in a healthy relationship with myself and those around me and my children. And I'm also raising my children to be emotionally mature, emotionally healthy. This is an everyday thing for me. So when people come into my life and they lack emotional vulnerability, emotional maturity, it's a turn off for me, because I'm constantly in that space of emotional vulnerability, emotional, maturity. I'm constantly growing in that area, especially being a mother. So I do, want people around me that exude or is practicing that same characteristic, because I just feel like it's only fair. I feel like, yeah, it is not my responsibility to be in any relationship with someone and do that emotional maturity for them, be emotionally mature for them. That's not my MO. You know what I'm saying? That's not my responsibility. Like, I have grace, I have patience, but there's only but so much patience that I have, that I'm gonna have, especially if I'm dealing with people that are closer to me. Because if you're closer to me, then that means that you know me on a much more deeper level than what other people may know me when they're not close to me. So that means that you know that I hold emotional maturity to a very high standard. You know that that's an area that I'm growing in every fucking day. But if that's something that you neglect because of how it is that you live your life, stop screaming. Then that ultimately means that we're unequally yoked and we don't have the same values in that sense. And honestly, I'm only trying to be around emotionally mature people, period. Like I said, I'm not perfect, and I do sometimes, may read into certain things a little bit too deep or whatever the case may be. But I do know that I have a very good discernment and I have a very good way of thinking about things, and I will never take that away from myself. I don't give a fuck what relationship I get in or out of. I'm never going to take away from myself that I have a very healthy way of thinking. I am not all unhealthy. I'm a lot of healthy. And I do believe that. And I feel like whoever gets close to me they're gonna feel that. They're gonna get to know that. They're gonna understand that, and they're gonna become one with that if they choose to. Because I'm not over here trying to be controlling and all that extra shit. All that extra shit is out the window. So if they choose to be, then they'll figure this shit out. But if they don't, then farewell. Like, it's not my responsibility to keep somebody somewhere that where it's unwarranted and unwanted. Like, I don't want relationships like that. All my relationships that I want in my life, even with my kids, I want everybody to feel wanted. I want everybody to feel loved. I want everybody to feel understood. I want everybody to feel seen. Ellie, come on. Oh, he want this one. And it's like I said, it's an everyday process for me, because I'm raising children. By the time I'm 30, bro, I might as well become a fucking therapist, because I take mothering very seriously. From the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep, and even in my motherfucking sleep, I'm teaching these children how to regulate their emotions, how to express their emotions in a healthy way. Children usually scream at each other and want to hit at each other or whatever, depending on the circumstance or whatever they was raised around. They try to get their point across to other children that's around them. But in a proper reality, that child is going to have to restrain themselves from throwing hands or screaming or lashing out or catching a temper tantrum. Every fucking day, I'm teaching my children how to express themselves in a better way, which also I can't not be working on myself in that way and teach my children that. So the fact of me even teaching them that means that I have to be working on myself with it, because I'm doing it with them every fucking day, every second of the day. Do you understand me? So yeah, I'm literally at that point. So if I go silent on you, or if I am not talking to you, that's because there's some type of disconnect there. And I don't it's like I've always experienced in my life where I wouldn't say like running after people, but I would definitely say like people pleasing. Like I've experienced that a lot in my life, like bringing them back to the table, sitting them down, pulling out their emotions, you know, making them feel like they're in the same. And I'm fucking tired of that shit. Either people get it or they don't, and that's just it. Either you feel safe or you don't. Either you want to fuck with me or you don't. Like there's no gray area. And like I said, I feel like everybody should live like that. And I feel like my children are gonna know that, and I want them to think like that, because I don't want them to be in situations where it's unwarranted and unwanted. Period. I'm talking about this topic because this has been my whole fucking life up until now. This is literally all I've known until now. All of my childhood friends, they think that they know me right now, and they fucking don't. And it's weird when I go around them, because they think that they know me, and they be handling me from this space where it's like, bro, like what? And when I'm being myself, they still can't comprehend me and accept me for who I am. So it's like, why the fuck am I your friend? Why the fuck am I around? Why the fuck are we talking? Why the fuck are we even, what are we doing here? We're not doing nothing here. We're just basking in each other's presence, and 9 times out of 10 you're sucking energy from me that I need to utilize to be the best mom that I can be and take care of myself, because you're not doing, like, I'm not benefiting from this shit. People can't, I've lived a life where people benefit from me. People have benefited from me. Like, you name it, right? And I didn't get anything in return. Nothing. Like, and it's not even in return. It's just a simple of reciprocation. Like, I deserve that shit. I know the Lord said don't give without expecting anything in return, but fuck all that. To some degree, you definitely should be in relationships that are reciprocal. That's only right. Now, I don't give to get, you know what I mean? I don't do none of that. But what I'm saying is, I'm not going to live another day on this earth being in relationships that are not equally yoked. That's all I'm saying. Moving forward in my life, like, and like I said, the new relationships that I have in my life right now is making me realize that. It's bringing that to the forefront. Like, I never had this thought process before. Before my new relationships that are in my life right now, I never had this way of thinking, because I never was exposed to anything else. I literally was only exposed to unhealthy relationships. Literally. So now that I'm getting a sense of what a healthy relationship is, what a healthy relationship looks like, is making me like, bruh, it's bringing everything full circle for me, so that I can be able to teach my children how to exercise self-preservation. Definitely. And I'm thankful for that. And I feel like by me talking about this, somebody else can learn from this. Somebody else can get something from this, because like I said, a lot of women ask me about, you know, different kind of topics, and you know what to do in these type of situations. No, you already have some. She want more. No. Let me see right there. You don't know. No gum. You already got gum. Wait, that's good. And you know what to say when she's trying to take something from you. Say, excuse me. You can't have no more candy. That's it. That's all. No more gum. Do you understand me? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. They all have some. Let's do it. Deal. They all have some. Mommy. But like I was saying, there are many women out there who constantly ask me about these kind of topics, these kind of, you know, and I feel like it's my duty. You know, I feel like it's my duty. I feel like God gave me a duty to talk about these things. I feel like God, you know, is putting me in a position to talk about these things. It's present, it's relevant. You feel me? And especially coming from a person where y'all literally have watched me be in unhealthy relationships. You know, you guys get to see the beauty of me come out of that. You know what I mean? Because that's not the end all be all of who I am. My trauma, my pain, my betrayal is not the end of who I am. God is taking me somewhere higher, and I feel like I want to bring other people with me. And if this video, me making this video talking about what I'm talking about right now, helps another queen or another king or another child, you know, elevate themselves emotionally and spiritually and mentally, then I've done my job. I've done what I came here to do. Like I said, if people feel some type of way about it, if the shoe fits, wear it. That literally has nothing to do with me. Like, it is what it is. You feel me? But I'm not gonna repress what I want to talk about or how I want to talk about it or whatever the case may be because of someone's perception of me. Like, I've done that enough. I've been silent and repressed my emotions because of someone's perception of me. I literally should not give a fuck. As long as I know what God feels about me, as long as I know what God thinks about me, then that is all that matters to me. And I'm going to teach my children that. Because my children deserve, and I deserve, and everybody else in this motherfucking world, if you are deserving, because some people are not, but all I'm saying is we are all deserving of some type of emotional. Hey! We all deserve some level of emotional transparency, you know? And like I was saying earlier, and just to tie it off, right? Tie this conversation off. It is your duty to continue to stay vulnerable with who you are. You know, if people want to take that and use it against you, then so be it. If people want to take your vulnerability and try to warp it into some shit and create a narrative that's not true or that has nothing to do with reality, then so be it. Because guess what? God says, when you stay true to yourself, I will correct all things. I will make all crooked paths straight. So if you're continuing to be authentic to yourself, then that means that you literally attract faster the people that are actually for you, the things and places that are actually for you. You attract that faster with being who you are, authentically, and unfiltered, so that you can get to wherever it is that God is taking you. Now, if you go and you start, you know, I'm not saying just be vulnerable to the point where everybody know your fucking business. Like, there's discernment that needs to be there, obviously. You see what I'm saying? But all I'm saying is, when you're in a dynamic of a relationship where there's a responsibility and a duty for you to be for you to communicate and create an understanding, these are the places that you want to show up authentically. Why the fuck am I messing up that word? Those are the places where you want to show up authentic. Why am I messing up this word? Those are the places that you want to show up authentically. Authentically. These are the places where you want to show up unfiltered, you know, unadulterated. You know what I mean? And that's just that. Like I said, what someone else does to you, or how someone else views you, or how someone else proceeds to deal with you, has nothing to do with you. God is going to deal with them. Know that first and foremost. And it is what it is. But I appreciate you guys listening and learning and hearing me out. I appreciate you guys supporting. Thank you for all the likes. Thank you for the shares. If you shared, thank you for the subs. I appreciate you guys. But I'm going to go ahead, regulate my litter, and I'll be back next time. So until next time, y'all. Later.